So what happened in Bessemer? So as all of you probably know by now, the Bessemer, Alabama unionization effort failed. The Amazon had enough votes in its favor to crush the union vote. There's a lot of news about this. I will touch on some of it briefly, but for the most part, just know that the result of this, as of right now, is that the union was not successful in holding their vote in Alabama, which is very unfortunate for the labor movement, but not ultimately a loss, a large-scale loss. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the things that Amazon did and does, which may have hurt the union effort. You may have seen reports that Amazon requires their employees to have to sit through these video trainings, these kind of anti-union video trainings. Jeff Bezos, who's the CEO of Amazon, was at a tech conference or was being interviewed for something, and he said that he believes that they have a good relationship with their workers and that they do not need a union. That's bullshit, but that's okay. Amazon worked with the local Bessemer officials to change the speed of the traffic lights so that the union organizers couldn't talk to people while they were waiting for the light about the union. There was some concern on Amazon's part that union organizers were using that time people were waiting at the light to get out of the factory parking lot to talk to people about the union. And it's true, that is in fact what was happening, but they couldn't organize on the Amazon warehouse property. So this was kind of the compromise, right? This is what they were able to do the organizing, and then Amazon undermined that as well. Additionally, Amazon worked with the Postal Service and pressured the Postal Service to install a drop box for its union card ballots on Amazon property, which gave the illusion that Amazon was able to kind of see what people were doing and monitor that. So there was a lot of intimidation factors there. There was a lot of kind of underhanded things from Amazon. And all this has come through leaks, right? So Amazon has been very close-fisted about this. They have tried as much as possible not to reveal their union-busting tactics, but these have all come forward. Ken Klippenstein of The Nation has done a lot of good work on this. You should check out his work as well. But you can pretty much find this information more or less anywhere now about Amazon's efforts to fight the union. So where that all brings us to the result, which I mentioned earlier. So what now? So there's a couple of things. So the first thing I want to point out is, A, this is not a general loss for the union movement. It is very upsetting, but this particular battle actually is not over yet. So the reason is, according to labor lawyers that I've spoken to, and as well as the union itself, the union is in plans to bring forth its case to the NLRB, which is the National Labor Relations Board, who oversees the union vote process, alleging that there was fraud on behalf of Amazon, and then they conduct themselves in an illegal manner. They are very confident at this point that the NLRB will allow for a revote. So we actually may get another bite of this apple, which would be very exciting. Hopefully, after seeing all of the fight that Amazon put up against the union, that workers will believe that actually the union is in their best interest. I do want to point out real quick that Amazon pays its workers $15 an hour as a minimum starting salary, a starting wage. You can thank Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna for that, but for the most part, not for the most part, sorry, you can thank Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna for that. Amazon does pay a decent wage, which is much higher than the surrounding wage in Bessemer. So there was some concern that Amazon was framing the union fight that if you voted for the union, you would actually lose your $15 an hour because the union would fight for a lower wage. I don't really understand what the messaging there was, but there was some thought that there was some fear about it due to how much more people were making at their warehouse than they would have made at other jobs. Okay, so where are we now? So obviously, the union and Amazon are both kind of fighting as much as possible to have the vote kind of definitively called in their direction. And by the union wanting it called in their direction, what I mean is not that the union would be formed, which obviously would be ideal, but that there'd be a revote. I think the move right now is for there to be a revote. Hopefully, if there is a revote, it will be a stronger showing from the union. I believe it was 66% against and 33% for. I think they just need 51. So 33 is not bad, and especially if you get a second try so quickly. Hopefully, that other 18% will come fairly easily, or at least we'll have seen the types of things that Amazon did to intimidate them, and we'll fight for the union. But it's hard to say about that particular warehouse. What's interesting actually now is that this fight, because it made such big news and there was so much information about it, is that according to the union, who who the Amazon workers were trying to unionize underneath, they have been reporting that other warehouses in other states have been reaching out to them and asking for ways to help them organize. So even if there is a loss here, if Bessemer can't get organized into a union for some reason and the NLRB does not allow for a revote, this may actually not be the last time this particular fight takes place, or even this fight generally speaking, because it looks like more Amazon warehouses are going to try to organize. So I think in the long run, it's important to think about the Bessemer fight as being very important for labor in general. Obviously, it could have been a gut punch or the spark that starts the fire, or whatever metaphor you want to use to really kickstart the labor movement back into some strength. But it's hard to say, right, if that actually would have been the case. But it does look like it has started, it has lit the fire under some other people in some other warehouses who are trying to unionize. So it does look like organized labor is making a tiny bit of a comeback, which is really what labor needs, as the amount of people in unions, I think it's like 6% of all private sector workers are unionized. So it's very, very low. Labor needs victories where they can get it, and this was definitely not the victory that it needed, of course, because it wasn't a victory at all. But if there is a victory here, if they are able to fight Amazon and they are able to get a revote and they are able to get that 51% for the union, it's going to be really important for labor in general. It's going to make waves, and hopefully it will set off, not just in Amazon warehouses, but in other workplaces as well, kind of a push to unionize, which is really what we need in order to, A, mobilize against our politicians who are not doing what we need them to do, but also to change the landscape of what working looks like in America. Shortened work weeks, shorter work days, better wages, better benefits, things like that. So hopefully we can have some of that. But I did just want to fill you in a little bit on what was going on in Bessemer, Alabama, and hopefully, and as we have more news here, more labor news, we'll definitely follow it. And if there's anything to report back on or any celebration to do, hopefully we can do that together, as I would really like for there to be a union at that warehouse and, of course, in all workplaces.